Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos de Ramaschal, Kodim Sheyavol de Iser Skila. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara so we could see what Tosfos is coming to explain. So here we have the teaching of Rav Ashi, that the question of Bibi Bar Abaya was if an individual placed dough into the oven on Shabbos on purpose, and now he wants to remove it. The question is, did they permit him to remove it? Because removing bread from the oven is asur midrabanan. Did they permit him to remove it? Kodim sheyavol de iser skila, before he comes to an iser skila. They did not permit him. And according to this explanation, we need to change the words of the question that we originally presented to Rav Bibi, where he said kodim sheyavol de iser chatas to kodim sheyavol de iser skila, since according to this explanation, the person put the dough into the oven on purpose. So the consequence is not karban chatas. For Mezid, the consequence is skila. So let's begin with the general outline of Tosfos. We have the explanation, the opinion of Rav Ashi. The Rabbi Bar Abaya's question was in a case where the person put the dough in the oven on purpose, and the question is, did they permit him to remove it before he comes to an Isser Skila, or did they not permit him to remove it before he comes to an Isser Skila? Tosfos is going to ask two questions. The first question of Tosfos is, now this question is completely irrelevant, this question of Rabbi Bar Abaya, according to Rav Ashi. Since the person won't listen to us, if we tell him it's asur to remove it, he's not going to listen. He'll most certainly remove it so that he doesn't get killed. And the second question of Tosfos is a little different, is a little bit sort of the opposite, and that is that it would seem that over here it's actually impossible to ever come to a chiyuv skila. And the reason is, since every time a person is warned that it's asur to put dough into the oven, it's hasra safek. It's a question whether the hasra the warning is a good warning, since it's a doubt whether he's going to do the aver. It's possible he'll remove the bread from the oven. So now let's see the Tosfos in the flowchart form. So Rav Ashi explained that the question of Rav Bibi was in a case where a person put the dough in the oven on purpose, and the question is, did they permit him to remove it before coming to an Isser Skila or not? Asks Tosfos that even if we tell him that it's asur, he's not going to listen to us since he doesn't want to get killed. So it comes out that the question of Rav Bibi is irrelevant. It makes no sense that would be his question. It's irrelevant since the person is removing it either way. He doesn't want to get killed. So Tosfos presents an answer by Rivo, and that is that since this person, if we would say it's mutter to remove it, now he has to remove it in order that it doesn't get baked, he'll receive the punishment of skila. However, if we say it's asur to remove it, and he doesn't remove it, he won't get killed, because he's withholding from removing it based on instruction by the Rabbanim. And Tosfos adds a support to this that we find elsewhere, this idea that a person withholds from doing something based on instruction by the Rabbanim, and in that case, it was no fault of his own whatsoever. Unlike in our case, the individuals put the bread in the oven. In that case, there was no fault of his whatsoever, and he withheld from doing something based on instruction by the Rabbanan. So over there, it's clear that there's no punishment involved. So just like we find over there that there's no punishment involved when somebody listens to the Rabbanan, we could say the same thing here. And that is basically there are three individuals that Minatar, they're obligated and able to bring the Karban Pesach, but as a result of their situation, there is a takana by the Rabbanan that they're unable to bring the Karban Pesach, and they left it in place, and these individuals now can't bring the Karban Pesach, even though there's a chiyuv kares. That's the punishment for not bringing Karban Pesach. And it's clear in that case that they don't actually receive the punishment of kares, since it's no fault of their own whatsoever. And we can say the same thing by us, that since this individual is withholding from doing the avera, as a result of an instruction by the Rabbanan, he won't receive the punishment. And this actually also fits very, very well in the words of the Gemara, because the words of the Gemara were, do we permit him to remove it before he comes to an Isser Skila? It should have said Chiyuv Skila. He's Chayav Skila. But according to this, we understand there's no actual Chiyuv Skila, it's just an Isser that involves Skila. And this leads us to the second question of Tosfos. In order to call something an Isser Skila, there has to be the possibility of a Chiyuv Skila. And it would seem that by baking, it can never be a Chiyuv Skila, since it's always a Asra Safek. The warning is always a Safek type of Asra. And the reason is, since when he's being warned, you're not allowed to bake on Shabbos, we don't know that he's baking. Because as far as we know, he might have intention to put it in there for a few minutes, and before it bakes, he plans on removing it. And why didn't he? He might have forgotten. But the point is that the warning that the Eidim give him is a Safek type of warning, since for all we know, he doesn't plan on baking the bread. And Tosfos answers that that's not considered Asra Safek. It's once again an answer by Rivo. That's not the definition of Asra Safek. In this case, actually, what we say is it's a full, proper, and complete Asra, since he put the bread into the oven, and that's Asra. And once you put the bread into the oven, or the dough in the oven, it naturally goes through the course of baking. And as far as we're concerned, that's what he has in mind to happen. So what is Asra Safek? Tosfos presents two examples of what is Asra Safek. One is if an individual took the mother bird away from her children. The Torah says, you're not permitted to do that. That's Asra Safek according to some opinions. The reason is, because there's some opinions that say that the Avera of Loisika Chaim Alabanim is not complete unless he can't do the Asay. There's a Avera Loisika Chaim Alabanim, there's a mitzvah Asay, Shalach the Shalach Asayim, send away the mother. So just like when a person steals, it's an Isser to steal. If he was warned that it's Asa to steal, he doesn't receive Malchus, and the reason is because he could always undo the stealing by returning it. It's a Lav Hanitik Lasei. So too Shiluch HaKan is a Lav Hanitik Lasei. When the person took away the mother, he could always fix it by bringing the mother back and sending her off. So if a person comes to take away the mother bird from her children, and he receives Asra, that's Asra Safik, according to the opinion that holds that the Avera is not complete unless the person removed from himself the ability to fix the Avera. For example, before taking the mother bird, he broke her wings. Now if he's given a warning, it's also to remove the mother bird, and he doesn't listen and takes it, that's a proper Asra, and he receives Malchus, since he can't fix it. He can't bring the mother bird back and send her off, because she's unable to fly. So when he takes the mother bird away, it's Asra Safik, he can always undo it. Now let's say he comes to break the mother bird's wings, that's also not a good Asra. And the reason is, Tosfos says, there's no Issa to remove the mother's wings. The Isser is to take the mother away from the nest, but at that point it's Asra Safik since he could always fix it. And then when he comes to break the wings, the Asra is no good since that's not an Isser. The only way it can be proper is if he nullifies, he takes away his ability to fix it by first breaking the wings. So that would be an example of Asra Safik. Another example Tosfos presents Asra Safik is if a person makes a vow, he won't eat a certain food if he eats another food. So let's just, for clarity's sake, we'll say the person made a vow, I won't eat this loaf of bread if I eat this vegetable. And now he comes to eat the loaf of bread, and he's warned, you can not eat the loaf of bread, because if later on he decides to eat the vegetable, it'll have a chalais, it'll develop that it's also to eat this loaf of bread. That is considered Asra Safik, since he might never come to eat that vegetable, and it will be perfectly fine for him to eat the loaf of bread. And then afterwards, if he ate the loaf of bread, he's given a warning, don't eat the vegetable, because then it develops an Isser on the bread that you already ate. That's not either considered a good Asra, since there's no Isser to eat the vegetable, it was on the bread which was eaten already. The only way it'll be a proper Asra is if he ate the vegetable first, and now he comes to eat the loaf of bread, he can be warned, it's also to eat the loaf of bread. So in those two cases, an action was missing. In the first case, what was missing is he needs to break the mother bird's wings first. In the second case, what's missing is he needs to eat the vegetable first. Whereas in our case, with the placing the dough in the oven, nothing is missing. He put the dough in the oven, and now it's going to bake. So to summarize Tosfos had two questions from sort of opposite directions. The first question is that this whole question of Rav Bibi Bar Abaye, do we permit the person to remove it? Do we not permit him to remove it? According to Rav Ashi, that it's a case of mezid. It's an irrelevant question, since the person will certainly remove it, because since he did it in mezid, he'll be chayav skili. He doesn't want to get killed. And Tosfos explains that he won't get killed because since he's withholding from removing it based on an instruction by the Rabbanan, the punishment won't be implemented. The second question of Tosfos is that in order to call it then an Isser Skilla, it has to be that there's a chance for a Chiyuv Skilla. And it doesn't seem like there can ever be a Chiyuv Skilla by baking, since it's always Asra Safik. It's possible that he intends to remove the dough from the oven before it bakes. Tosfos answers that's not considered Asra Safik, since he did the action and the Isser will develop on its own without anything else done. Asra Safik is that when what the person is doing right now is lacking another action in order for it to be Asr.